Good one. It is the 10th day of April, April 10th, 2025. It's 7 o'clock on the nose, 7:01, depending on what phone you're using. And tonight, we've got a couple of great things going on. Number one, it's just Thursday, and I love Thursday nights. It's a tradition of me loving Thursday nights. Dyer is coming on. He's the guest of honor. He'll be with us in a few minutes. He's our guest this evening, jaysanalysis.com. All of his links are in the description of this episode. And I wanted to do an intelligence service deep dive with him. Top 10 operations known to the public and other things, especially time to expand into Hollywood, because not only is it closely related to intelligence service activity, but Jay is about to release another book on the subject soon. Esoteric Hollywood 3 is coming out soon. You can get it for on pre-order right now. And that's what we have there. Other than that, there is so much else happening. This right here I'm playing off of this Kenobi, Chasing Clouds. And I'm playing it off of the Quite Frankly Spring Fever playlist that is included in this month's bulletin. The April edition of the Quite Frankly Bulletin. You can get that in the description below, or it is archived on quitefrankly.tv. It's all over the place. And if you just can't find it, email me. I'll send it right to you. You got to read the bulletins. They're so great, and we feature a lot of great stuff from the fans as well. I want to make a great announcement because, of course, tonight is Thursday, which means that we are also syndicated on Badlands Media. Love all of our friends over there. And this is really awesome. I got to say, Badlands Media is heading to Plymouth, Massachusetts with the 8th stop on the Great American Restoration Tour, May 1 through 4. Don't miss out on the conversations, the shenanigans. Get your virtual tickets today. With virtual tickets, you ensure that you're a part of the action wherever you are. You'll gain access to an exclusive GART chat to interact with other in-person and virtual attendees. You get behind-the-scenes photos and videos. You also get to ask the panel questions, so you can be part of the live discussion. And while many of our shows are they're going to be represented at the conference, you may notice some changes to our regular scheduled programming. That's just going to happen. But you can get your fix of Badland Media by purchasing a virtual ticket today. And if you can't watch live, don't fret. Replays of the entire event will be available to all ticket holders. You can visit badlandsmedia.tv/events for details on both in-person and virtual tickets. I think it's great. A lot of people are doing a lot more in-person stuff. There's something we'll be announcing sometime soon that we're aiming for the end of summer. I really want to be able to get out to one of these Great American Restoration Tour events, or because I know that Badlands has been doing this for a while. Because Zach Payne, Red Pill, would always be like, "Hey, what's going on?" He would always be like, "I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here." I think the Vegas one. There's other. They travel a lot, and there's a lot of people that go out to these things, which is great because it tells me that all the virtual connections people are making are actually trickling out into real life. And that's really what you need to rebuild a culture. It's people talking to each other again, having a good time, shaking hands. And that's that. So badlandsmedia.tv/events. I don't think I'll be able to go to Plymouth, but I'd love to catch one of these. I want to go on some damn road trips already. Okay, well, that's that. Let's get this one kicked off because we're going to have Jay Dyer on the show with us in just a few minutes. It'll be a deep one. It's going to be great. Every time that Jay comes by, man, it can go in any direction. And it usually does. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back in a flash. So don't skedaddle.
By the way, the definition of the word retard is to hinder or to hold someone back. I think your life is about to become retarded.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's run!
Hello, everybody. That was the pre-show. This is the real show. Welcome one, welcome all. So, we're going to be talking a lot about, we'll be getting into movies tonight in a little bit, but there's a lot more that predates that. The influence, the powers that influence the movies and everything else that goes along with our culture. But it's not even that. It's more. I mean, you think about what we've gotten just over the last couple of weeks alone with the Ark of the Covenant. I know that the pyramids and all of those satellite scans that opened up, the conversation about what is going on 2 kilometers below the surface over there in Egypt is not CIA related, but we got a lot more on that. We got talks about remote viewing, not only the Ark of the Covenant, but then there was also Mars. Of course, that brings in all of the past stuff that we've learned from the Monroe Institute. We've also got this from the Pulse a couple of weeks ago. Some UFO abductions were simulated CIA psychological warfare experiments. What else did they do? Now, this one I'm definitely going to bring up when we have Timothy Alberino back on the show. Maybe that'll be another Thursday night. The picture above is of Joseph Allen Hynek, an American astronomer, professor, and ufologist. Hynek acted as a scientific advisor to UFO studies undertaken by the U.S. Air Force under 3 consecutive projects: Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book, 1952 to 1969. The man next to him is Dr. Jacques Vallée. So, the roots run deep, my friends. They really do, all over the place. That being said, I mentioned Mars before. I'll have a little bit more on that later on tonight, too. Because it's been getting around that Mars, it's been discovered. By whatever means, we're going to learn about it. That it has enough water for a 1-mile planetary-wide ocean. You hear that? Water. Never seen it. Never seen a drop in my life. But they found a lot of it. And if this was the 90s, the entire world would be at a standstill. But no, this stuff does just not move the needle for anybody anymore. I don't think it moves the needle for Jay Dyer either. I don't think it does. We also have some more on this. As far as cloning goes, I want to bring that up. I want to bring up all of the, when you talk about Hollywood, you can go into, there's so many places where the road forks. And one of those places is celebrity cloning. I don't know if we're going to have enough time for that tonight, but I'd really love to bring it up because Jay was also a co-host. He co-hosted a few book clubs with me. We did Brave New World. We did The Godfather together. I think those are the only 2 we did. But Brave New World was incredible because we really started breaking down and getting, getting really well acquainted along with the audience that took part in it with the genetic structure of that world, which of course was written by Aldous Huxley. And this was written as an he was an apologist for that New World Order type. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a, hey, listen, this is the path we're on if we don't watch ourselves. This was a, hey, this is what's going to get served up to you. And oh, well, we're coming up on 100 years later, and boy, oh boy. Think about the headlines we had just in the last couple of weeks, aside from the fact that we've had the first de-extinction cloning, resurrection clone of a dire wolf. We have a follow-up to all of those. What was it? I think it was in 2024. Probably one of the last times that Jay came on, to be honest. Early 2024 or late 2023. They were talking about these bags, almost like latex bags that can act as artificial wombs or artificial placentas that they were trying to develop, at least for a certain point in gestation, these baby lambs in these little latex sacks or something like that in these laboratories. Which, of course, all of the stated intention was that this would be there as options for premature babies to be incubated in a little bit more of a natural environment instead of outside of a mother, outside of the womb. And, there's some people that will applaud that. And I'm sure that options like this would be very, very helpful for in the future. But is it always the stated intent? Is the stated intent always really what's going on? You remember back in 2018? I don't want to run into Jay here. He's going to be coming on any second here. But you remember in 2018, there was this from MIT, which is also the MIT Technology Review is also what's been talking about the brainless bodies that are coming our way. Or at least that they want to be able to start growing brainless, soulless bodies that just essentially provide not only organs, but meat. Okay, this was 2018. Chinese scientists are creating CRISPR babies. A daring effort is underway to create the first children whose DNA has been tailored using gene editing. So to say, they were a long way off for humans and they were just doing this with dire wolves and dodo birds, it's bullshit. No, it's not happening. It's already happened. It's already happened, my friends. So I want to be able to just get a lot of this out on the table for you tonight. And Jay will be joining us in a little bit. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I might bring it up first, is something that one of you guys had thrown my way during the coffee meeting on Monday morning on YouTube. When we had our Monday morning coffee meeting, which is open for all, usually around 11 a.m. Haven't missed a Monday since we started it, so it's been kind of a set thing. But one of you guys threw the Richard Day tapes my way, and I remember them. I remember looking into them, and I think Jay had gone into them as well, which I think would be a really interesting way to start all this off, because you want to talk about planning a society, how to then demolish and rebuild a society. That's something that I think is worthy of digging into. For those of you who don't know, here's a little bit of a background. The Richard Day tapes, more formally known as the New Order of Barbarians tapes, refers to a series of audio recordings made by Dr. Lawrence Dunnigan in 1988 and 1991. These recordings recount a lecture that Dunnigan claims he attended on March 20th, 1969, delivered by Dr. Richard Day, a prominent physician and professor of pediatrics who was also involved with Planned Parenthood. According to Dunnigan, Day spoke to a group of medical professionals and students at the Pittsburgh Pediatric Society, sharing what he presented as insider knowledge about a planned future for a society orchestrated by a powerful group that he referred to as the New Order of Barbarians. Day allegedly asked attendees not to take notes or record the lecture, citing potential personal repercussions if his remarks became public. The content of the tapes outline a wide-ranging agenda purportedly designed to reshape society over decades. Dunnigan recalled the Day discussing topics such as population control, changes in medical care, societal restructuring, and the erosion of traditional values, all framed as part of a deliberate plan by an elite group. Here's a breakdown. Number one, population control. Day allegedly predicted, because these are all, like most things of this nature, whether it be the Albert Pike letters or something else like that. Some people say it's true, it's real. Others say there's no evidence and it's all myth. But just like the Albert Pike letters, the Illuminati, that outline the 3 world wars, it does say something that so far we are on track, and it's almost to the T, the punctuation mark, that things have been progressing. So Day allegedly predicted measures to limit population growth, including promoting smaller families, 2-child maximums, making divorce easier and more common, encouraging euthanasia for the elderly, deemed no longer useful to society. I think a lot of that's been going on. Medical changes. Day reportedly claimed that healthcare would become prohibitively expensive, especially for the elderly, and tied to employment status. He also mentioned that the intentional introduction of new, difficult to diagnose and untreatable diseases. Additionally, he suggested that cancer cures already existed in 1969 but were being withheld with the information stored at the Rockefeller Institute. A lot of big name drops. Sometimes that makes people suspicious as well. Societal shifts. The lecture supposedly included plans to destabilize traditional structures like marriage and religion. Homosexuality would be normalized and promoted. Sex education would be used to influence youth early. Day allegedly said people would be conditioned to accept constant change as normal, making societal norms fluid and impermanent. Surveillance and technology. Day is said to have foreseen a world where television would monitor viewers even when turned off, and a single banking system would eliminate physical money with all transactions tracked electronically. And cultural and behavioral manipulation. Fashion would become more provocative. Media would push sex and violence to desensitize people. Terrorism would increase globally, creating fear and justifying control measures. Well, I'll be. Now, again, I want to bring this up to Jay Dyer. I was expecting him here 7 minutes ago. Thankfully, I had a lot of cushion up front to work with. But again, when we look at the published writings, the published works of someone like Aldous Huxley, he got it pretty good too. Makes you wonder if there is a game plan, if there always has been. And as it turns out, a lot of these people are publishing these things along the way. And it's almost like their own little cheerleading. They cheerlead each other. So we're going to be able to do a little bit more of this when Jay comes back. I'm just going to go check on him, to be honest. And in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with a very short break that I was going to save for the intermission. But this one is for My Pillow. And go check it out. Badlands is the promo code, and we will be right back in a second. Don't go anywhere.
The products you all wish My Pillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard My Pillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use My Pillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all My Pillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard My Pillows absolutely free.
They call him Samurai. He speaks fluent Japanese.
Are you Fujiyama?
What does katana mean?
It means Japanese sword.
Welcome to Perpetual Health Minute, brought to you by Quite Frankly. Food cravings. This is something that most of us have experienced in life. In fact, this 2020 paper found that 97% of women and 68% of men experienced food cravings at least one time in their life. And higher food craving scores are associated with things like lower diet quality, higher eating frequency, and a lower likelihood of following a time-restricted eating pattern. So food cravings can come from many places, psychological and physiological. But the best thing you can do is eat at the appropriate time of day and eat a nutrient-dense diet full of healthy fats, proteins, and micronutrients. The idea is separating the reward center of the brain from appetite control, and that will lead to better health outcomes. If you like this video, please follow the new Perpetual Health Rumble channel. You can also find us at perpetualhealth.substack.com. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Back to the show.
Poof. Okay, everybody. So listen, we're going to be taking a little bit of calls. We're going to take some calls from you guys about whatever the hell you want until Jay shows up. So I like having everybody up front. That's what we were planning on doing. But until he shows up, we're just going to go right to the calls. 914-200-0269. Give me a buzz. 914-200-0269. And you're coming on the air with us. And I just want to hear what's going on with you, how you're seeing things out there. And the other thing there, too, that we can talk about is, of course, the content, the table of contents for Jay and his book, which I think is great. because there's a couple of things in here that I'd really love to talk to him about. A couple of titles in here that I'd really love to talk to him about. He's got an entire section on Christopher Nolan. One in particular I wanted to bring up was The Prestige. One of my favorite films, really is. And again, what is pulled from all this? What is pulled from all this? There's also somebody out there. His name is Tim. And he sent in a couple of these PSAs, these old school PSAs, and wanted to know if Jay, but I was also thinking that this would be a great bit for Mike Baldwin tomorrow night. If these old television PSAs were worthwhile for America's health, if they actually did anything at all. Do you guys remember this PSA for methamphetamine? I don't remember it. I remember the eggs frying on the frying on the frying pan. I remember a few other let's see here. I remember all the marijuana ones. Those are great. Take a look at the meth commercial.
Look at me, busy as a bee. Where'd I get all this energy? Oh, meth, meth. I don't sleep.
Is this?
I don't eat,
I don't
but I've
remember
got
this.
the cleanest house on the street.
This has got to be like Kids in the Hall or something. Is this for real? Because I thought I remembered all of these things.
Oh, meth, meth. Get these hairs all out of my face. Get these bugs all out of my place. One more hit, no time to waste. Oh, meth, meth.
Office of the National Drug Policy, partner with the Drug Free America. I can see that being true. Like sometimes we were just abrasive with the messaging in the 90s. And that looks like a 1994 kind of a feel right there. Here's the other one, and I can't wait to show these to Mike Baldwin tomorrow. We'll see the other ones are out there. This is, I remember this one. I learned it by watching you, Dad. You want to talk about cultural norms and messaging.
It's yours?
No,
My mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's
Where
not.
did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right?
What?
I learned it by watching you.
What are you talking about?
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
But wait a second. I want to look inside of this box here. Okay, what's in there? See, how would he see the thing that's funny to me is how would the father be surprised? He's obviously he didn't know that his son is watching him roll joints, or is there something else in there? And if it's more than that, then I mean, was he really doing it in front of the kid the whole time? It's you, all right. I can imagine that being for like your curse words. I heard Dad use that language. I saw Dad use the marijuana. Anyway, these are something that I actually liked back then. I think it's better than the drug wars that we still run and we still wage. I like the messaging. That it's fun, it creates conversation, it creates memes for years and years to come. And of course, it doesn't empower the cartels, which is what it usually what happens at the end of some of these drug wars here. But here we go. Now we're back on track, ladies and gentlemen. So joining us right now for the first time since I think December, author, comedian, host of the Alex Jones Show's Fourth Hour, Jay Dyer, Jay's Analysis. How are you, sir?
Good, man. Glad to be back with you.
It's great to have you.
I lost the link. I had a flood of messages on Twitter, and I had to go and find where it was.
Damn it.
So,
I'm sorry. Well, I should have kicked it up to the top or something. Anyway, well, it's good to have you on. You've been very busy lately. It's always great to see you do well. And not only that, but you have Esoteric Hollywood Part 1 and 2, books that I own. But it is soon going to become a trilogy. When does Part 3 officially come out?
Well, we don't have a set date yet, but I mean, it's going to be in the next couple months. So it's going to be soon.
But it's on pre-order on Amazon, though, right? Because I saw that.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Oh, well, then maybe I saw the wrong thing. But
it may be on there pre-order, but don't pre-order it from Amazon. Pre-order it from the website when I get that up there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, either way,
otherwise you're just giving money to Jeff Bezos.
So. Right. ultimately,
you know more about my book than I do. So
at this point I do, but we'll see, because I have a table of contents that you sent me, and I want to talk to you about that in a bit. But first, before you came in, I was reading a little bit about the Richard Day tapes again. And somebody had brought it up in the chat room for a stream I was doing earlier on in the week, and they suggested I talk to you about it, and it jogged my memory because I remember you bringing these up. And unless I'm remembering wrong, what do you know about the Richard Day tapes again? And are they real? Because I know, like, for things like this, there's a lot of people who say yay, they say nay. What's your take on the whole thing?
I think they're real because I did go and verify that that guy really was the head of Planned Parenthood back at the time. Everything in those lectures was recorded by one of the participants in the event does affirm pretty much what's happened in the world. So, the last 20, 30, 40 years lines up with maybe not every single thing, but a lot of what was in the day tape. So I think that we could surmise that it was a very accurate retelling and recounting of what they had planned in terms of Rockefeller Foundation and sort of reorganizing society in terms of depopulation, Malthusianism, various, medical procedures, shall we say.
Yeah.
All those things are mentioned as things that should be promoted, planned, and even things like social disintegration and pressure from above, pressure from below, which are different strategies for causing kind of social chaos to, problem, reaction, solution, bring in the answer.
Well, I remember we were talking about this a lot around the time that we were doing Brave New World together, and that's probably going to pop up a couple of times along the way with our talk tonight, because it's one of those things where what I learned from you when we came together to read the book and analyze the book is that most people growing up, when we read either 1984 or any of George Orwell's stuff or Huxley, most people think it's a warning about a future that could be from somebody who actually wants to prevent it. And I learned it was actually an apologetic. And these are things that have been in many ways laid out in kind of creepy ways. And even though, like, I even mentioned the Albert Pike letters, there's a lot of discussion whether or not those are real, whether or not they're real, or it's when you look at the chronology of foretold events of 3 world wars, there's a lot that make you think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really put a whole lot of stock in those letters. They seem to be a little much. I think the dating is weird with the terminology. But even still, I mean, kind of what's in there, loosely speaking, kind of matches up to, I think, what the technocrats have planned for a global governance, for an integrated world federation, a socialist EU-style structure that the rest of the world would then have. And we're seeing right now, for example, in England, Keir Starmer is an open Fabian socialist. I've been talking about Fabian socialism for many, many years, over a decade. And that's sort of what they wanted to roll out in the EU and in the UK especially, and then reintegrate and reorganize society on that basis.
Would the Richard?
I think that what we're seeing over there is kind of what they would like to do in North America, probably all the continents as well, if they can get all their agenda through.
Would anything in the Richard Day tapes fall under specific operations that you listed in your top 10? Because I would love to go through those soon, but since this came up, I figured I'd just throw it into the mix to start us off.
Say that again. Do anything in the what? The day tapes, what?
In the Richard Day tapes, does any of that operation, does that fall under any? Does any of the stuff in those tapes fall under any specific operation out of the 10 per se that you listed?
Oh, that I listed.
Yeah. Or is it just like spray? Is it just
let me get my list out here. I got it here. I don't know that anything would be a direct necessary parallel, except that the Rockefeller Foundation plays a key role in the planning and strategies of the day, discussions, and the origins of the CIA and the OSS do directly relate to the Rockefeller family and what they pretty much funded and helped to establish. David Rockefeller brags about that in his memoirs, for example. He himself, by the way, used to be an intelligence operative in the Army when he was younger. So I would say, if anything, elements of MK Ultra, I think, played into the day tapes, because even though the day discussions were not about mind control operatives and that kind of stuff, the research that was derived from a lot of the MK Ultra studies dealt with social engineering and social control. So that could be one element of it. Paperclip is possible too, because of course paperclip is 1945 to 1959, and that involved importing a lot of the tiny mustache men higher ups and trying to derive a lot of their engineering scientific knowledge for the US and for the West. And so I would imagine a lot of the ideas about genetics, genetic modification, breeding science, Malthusianism, dysgenics, probably a lot of that came from some of the paperclip people, and that would have overlap with the day tapes. And maybe just loosely some of the others, but I think for the most part, those would be the most relevant to the day tapes.
Well, you brought up 2 out of the 10. Paperclip that's been in the news recently with all the Argentina stuff, that there might be a declassification of some of Tiny Mustache Man's vacation plans. And then also MK Ultra as well. We heard about remote viewing of the Ark of the Covenant, the CIA faking alien abductions that's been published about again recently. And then I saw you put out this top 10. I said, bingo. So let's tie it all together. Paperclip, MK Ultra. What are the other 8? I'd love to get through some of those.
Yeah, I didn't put these in any definite order. They're just kind of the top 10 that I picked out of 20 that are declassified. So all 20 are pretty wild. And then I tried to kind of just randomly pick the ones that I thought were the top 10, but in no specific order. So of course we have MK Ultra, which is probably the most famous, up there with perhaps Paperclip. And this is the dozens of universities, dozens of academic institutions that were intent upon basically studying the human psyche and mastering it, and then sort of exporting that ideology into mass formation, psychosis, psychological engineering. And we can find parallels, for example, with World War II era psychological warfare theorists like Juice Merleau. We did a lecture through his entire book. He was a World War II psychological warfare expert for the Allies. And he wrote on that topic. There's also Operation Mockingbird from the 40s to the 70s. And this is, of course, the CIA buying off journalists throughout the Cold War to make sure that the journalists, there's about 400 or 500 throughout the world, would repeat the CIA line. That doesn't mean that I think that Soviets were the good guys or that I'm pro-communist, but throughout that period, you do have the subversion of journalism from the 40s all the way to the 70s. And it was a pretty widespread program. And I would say that even though this program, Mockingbird, ended in the 1970s, we have the same analog to that with like Mockingbird 2.0, with all of the big players and big entities shutting down social media, censoring and banning social media, that kind of stuff.
What about Hollywood in itself? Because of course, news media, being in every newsroom in the country, and that's one thing. But when was it? Was it we hear about Independence Day or Close Encounters of the Third Kind or anything else like that, where this is an era where when you start talking about and putting movies out there about sensitive subjects, about whether it be extraterrestrial life or high technology or anything like that, there's usually some sort of a government attaché that's there to give you all of the ins and outs, to make it more believable, but to also not to give people too much. We heard about that. When did that become, from your research, a little bit more, I don't know, I would say normal?
Well, one of the projects that would relate to that would be Project Stargate, because even though Stargate is not explicitly about aliens, the idea was that from 1978 to 1995, they would be studying the occult. So it wasn't just remote viewing. They were studying all kinds of different techniques. If you watch the movie Ministeric Goats, that's kind of based on this type of project where the Army, the Stanford Research Institute, First Earth Battalion, they were looking into all these different mentalism and psychic abilities and telekinesis and remote viewing and astral projection, and possibly also things relating to LSD, hallucinogens. And if you combine that with gateway process, which was also declassified not too long ago, I think it's from the early 80s. This talks about transcendental meditation. It talks about biofeedback, biohacking, meditation, and so forth to achieve, these esoteric enlightened states. And could this be weaponized? And could we create psi-spies? And the Soviets even had their own psi-spy program. So there was kind of a mirror project going on in the Cold War with the Soviets doing their psi-spies and the West, the CIA doing their psi-spies. And I think that a lot of that, maybe even inadvertently, does tie into like the UFO phenomenon, because a lot of the people who would be doing these meditation sessions and these these LSD type studies and research, or DMT, the float tanks, with John C. Lilly, they would think they were contacting beings and entities. So a lot of times they'd, this is the aliens, right? So they would just kind of make a one-to-one assumption that the beings that they're contacting must be the same as the beings that are happening throughout the Foo Fighter UFO phenomena. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think there is overlap. And I think that the whole UFO phenomenon pretty much comes out of all this MK Ultra research. They want to give everybody a new ideology in the West and in the world, a new religion.
I guess we could just jump right there real quick. Then perhaps we can go back to, and it doesn't have to be the 10 that you picked. It could be any of the crazy 20. Because I'd love to hear a little bit more of this. It's a review, but there's also some stuff I had forgotten about or never heard about at all. But when it comes to intelligence services and the space programs, a lot of esoteric background there, no doubt. Paperclip had been brought up again, like I said, with the Argentina news. And of course, Paperclip was the lifeblood of the space race. But when it comes to NASA-based PSYOP theories, they are aplenty. And I just wonder, because I never talked about this, but just the nature of this to begin with, like the nature of space in general. I don't know what your take on the whole thing is. Have we even been to space, do you believe?
I would definitely think that there are satellites, and probably there is the ability to go into low Earth orbit. I'm pretty much a skeptic about a lot of other stuff. I think NASA was in some way a kind of a front, a cover for Cold War stuff. But and probably they were erecting a lot of the global spying infrastructure, is my view, as to what they were doing in the Cold War under the cover of NASA and space. I think they were setting up like the Star Wars Defense Initiative and that kind of stuff. But beyond that, I don't really. I think a lot of the space stuff was just Cold War propaganda. I don't have any set opinions on the structure of the universe or how it works or what's really going. I have no idea what's really going on out there. So I'm a agnostic skeptic on those kinds of questions, but I do think that there's a pretty deep rabbit hole that you can go down when it comes to NASA during the Cold War and how well it functioned as a kind of a propaganda tool. But as to how advanced the space tech really is, I have no idea.
What do you think about other things like, and you may have not even dipped into this at all, but it's very hard to miss these things if you're spending any considerable amount of time on the internet. But things like the Challenger disaster in 1986, there's a really compelling theory that a lot of those astronauts, if not all of them, are still alive and have been under assumed identities as teachers and whatever since then. I see the pictures, the side-by-sides. I don't know if they're real, but they're, of course, like on everything, there's a split. And given all of the NASA-based PSYOP theories that are out there, that was one of the really compelling ones that I always wanted to know a little bit more about. I didn't know if that was something that ever tickled your fancy.
I'm familiar with this theory and this analysis. I don't know a whole lot about what the truth is. I could see large scale kind of deception at that level. And one of the next programs I was going to mention actually does include large scale deception. And that's Operation Northwoods, which was a 1962 program that would stage a giant fake flag event. It included fake news stories to go along with the event. It included drones. It included an airplane full of dead bodies. And this was going to be a fake TERROR event blamed on Cuba. And it was signed off by L.L. Lemnitzer, who was formerly the Joint Chief of Staff, I think, under Kennedy. And then he was also the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. But
that's a big one.
Yeah,
it definitely relates.
He was the one proposing Northwoods. They didn't actually go with it, but what it shows us is that they've had these large scale style ops and psyops for a long time, that, and this is just kind of basic military deception techniques. Well, so it's possible. I don't know what the motive or the advantage would be to staging the shuttle blowing up
event. Yeah.
I would be interested to know what they gained from that, if it was a psyop.
It would be interesting to get that from the
audience.
But
it's not outside the realm of possibility, given the fact that Northwoods exists.
For sure. And perhaps when we open up the lines for calls later on, we'll see if something comes through, and I'll let you know what comes in because that'd be interesting. So Northwoods, let's do two more, because I'd love to, if there's anything in there that's obscure but really interesting that people should know about, that'd be awesome, because then I want to move on to some of the stuff that's in Esoteric Hollywood 3, because there's a lot of overlap between these intelligence services and the messaging that's going out to common viewing audiences. So this is going to be a good one. Do you want to do two more?
You cut out. I'm sorry. What was the last part?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I said okay. After we do two more of these.
Yeah, two more. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then we'll go into Hollywood 3.
Yeah, I was just pulling up my list of the. I don't even remember all the contents in there, so I got to pull up the table of contents to remember it. But so let's see. We did Northwoods. Next would be Paperclip. We did that. Next one is. We did Stargate. I mentioned that. So,
you know what, Jay? What's
Gladio?
What's Stargate? What's Stargate? Because you and I did a lot on Gladio, but I want to ask you about some psychological stuff. I know that in the past, when you were on the show, you had mentioned that earlier on in life, you had done some psychedelics. That's true, right? You said that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I was a teenager. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, and now obviously your life has taken you into so many different places, and you are a leading voice online for Orthodox Christianity. And I really appreciate all of, everything you tie together. I think it's really interesting that you have that background of that type of experience. Do you look at any of those experiences, having, done those, taken hallucinogens in the past? Is there anything that ever hinted at you that this was more than just a trick of the mind, or is there a spiritual element to things? Or do you feel that you were in that state opened up or maybe vulnerable to something other than just what the mind produces under the influence of psilocybin or something else like that? Or is there actually a spiritual element to these substances?
Right. Well, Stargate was the one I mentioned about remote viewing. So, right. It kind of overlaps with a lot of the stuff that MK Ultra was interested in, including the research into the entheogens and the hallucinogens. And yeah, my own experience, I had a bad trip the first time I did it. And I felt like that was definitely demonic. Looking back on it, there was communication with some kind of being, an entity that was just a point of light. And that was when I was about 17 or 18. And I did acid maybe 4 or 5 more times after that. So that was pretty much the extent of my hallucinogen trials, so to speak. I mean, it wasn't trials. We're just idiot teenagers partying. So, but, I'm likening it to like an MK Ultra type experiment. But the other experiences weren't bad trips. They were just kind of goofy, silly times. But the first time was definitely a bad trip. And I do think that you can have those opening up experiences where you do experience something like that. I would not recommend it. In fact, I've always been opposed to those things ever since, my youth, coming out of that stuff. So I've never gone back and done any hallucinogens, never had the desire to do it. I think it's really dangerous, something that people shouldn't play with. But that's a pretty common type of experience with DMT, with these various, high-powered hallucinogens. People go out of body and they see the DMT clockwork elves, and they see the gods and the beings and the entities. And the thing about that is that they usually tell people a false message. They usually say something like, we're here to help you. If you listen to us, we can solve Earth's problems. You got to depopulate. You need a world government. You got to have a new age religion. So you get the same kind of demonic, I would say, influence. And I don't see how you could explain that or why that would be there if there wasn't a spiritual basis underlying these phenomena, these experiences.
Yeah, and it's a very, very important cultural point too when it comes to especially movies. Obviously, you can read all you want about MK Ultra. I mean, there's a little bit more on Charles Manson that's been coming out lately. Some threads that have been put out that I think were really interesting. And how much control was there? What is it? Whitey Bulger? We were learning a lot about these.
He was part of MK Ultra in prison. Yeah,
exactly. And there's so much of this here too, whether it be mind control or whether it be just using these substances to break a person and to help make them disassociate in some way so I just thought that is really an interesting background for somebody like you, where you are right now, to have had those experiences so early on. And I just never asked you what you concluded from them, whether it was just a goofy time or if you thought that no, there was a doorway that you can access through this, and it's probably one to stay away from if you can. But
that's what opening that third eye, or what with the occult or the yoga, the Kundalini, all that kind of stuff, I think is hitting at similar things. And it's not necessarily a good thing. I don't think you should do that kind of stuff. I think that people who are, in the Orthodox Church, you have people who are spiritually advanced and they have, experiences of experiencing God directly, I guess you could say, that kind of stuff. That's kind of when you're at an advanced spiritual state. You don't try to induce it through shortcut means of drugs and stuff. So that's what I think I learned as I've gotten older, is that a lot of that stuff that dupes young people is they think they're going to get a shortcut to spiritual enlightenment through these kinds of substances. A lot of those, psychedelic bros and that sphere of stuff. And I really think it's all just kind of a delusion, and it's also dangerous, opening up yourself to spiritual forces and deception.
Well, this is why I wanted to talk to you about at least two off the bat movies that you have listed in the table of contents for Hollywood, Esoteric Hollywood 3. And both of them are Christopher Nolan films. And one of my favorites is The Prestige. We'll get to that in just a second. But the other one that the second one was actually not a Christopher Nolan film. It was The Fountain.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you have this on your list. A friend of mine suggested this movie to me years ago. Got Hugh Jackman, Rachel Weisz in it, and it combines themes of immortality, these two souls bonded through multiple lifetimes, but on a simpler level, there's a lot of about acceptance of loss, soaking up relatively short time you have with people you love and all that. But it's bitterly sad, but at the same time, it's gorgeous. And I'm curious to you about what came through to you on this one, because it is one big trip. And there's things that make me unsettled about it. And I just want to see what you articulate first on that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. It's Darren Aronofsky, who is kind of admittedly somewhat of a Kabbalist. I think amongst directors, you have a handful of directors that are kind of well known that are pretty openly esoteric, occultic type practitioner, followers, believers. You've got Ari Aster to some degree, who did, Midsommar and Hereditary. You've got Darren Aronofsky, who's into Kabbalah. He did Pi, Noah, Black Swan, and then he did The Fountain. And there's a couple others like Robert Eggers that did The Witch and Nosferatu, and they're all pretty openly interested in the occult. But I think that in this film, he's tying Native American mythology, Aztec, Inca, Maya mythology into the idea of the tree of life and the garden. And it's combined with Buddhist philosophy and thought, and it's combined with reincarnation, perhaps from the Kabbalah or from Eastern mysticism. It's hard to say, but I think all of those kind of are wrapped up in this idea that your soulmate perhaps is what completes you, and that you're going to go through these life cycles until you find that complement to your personality and to who you are. And then that's what helps you to achieve the sort of nirvana state or whatever it is. But I did like the way that the film, just on a cinematic level and in a symbolic way, the way it's done. I think it's an interesting film. So that's why I included it in the analysis, was that there's not a whole lot of films that have, philosophical, symbolical depth. So it needed to be in there. And it's from a Kabbalistic director. So that's why I put the film there.
When it comes to movies like that, and I like it, it's one of those movies where I think it's one of those things I would watch maybe once every 10 years, because it takes a lot out of you, especially with the sick wife, and there's just so many things happening there. But I think the thing that really makes me uncomfortable is the depiction of the space in between worlds, or what comes after death, or in this case, what comes in between lives. And it's always it makes me feel so, it's surreal, and it's isolating in that surreal feeling as well. It's almost like it's a form of hell in and of itself, because you're always alone. The main character is always alone. He's always struggling through something. There's nobody there. Whereas at the end of a movie like Ghost with Patrick Swayze, there's that, you get that swell of emotion and acceptance at the end, no doubt. But you see Patrick Swayze, he goes to heaven, and you're left with the assurances that, all right, yeah, this stings, but you're going to see him again. But movies like The Fountain, the suggestion that we're just going to be lost in a bewildering feedback loop of soul recycling, it makes my stomach just sink into my shoes, and that's what I walk away from. Maybe some people see it differently, but it's a trip. That's why the first thing I thought about was this movie when we were talking about LSD.
Yeah, I've never seen any really convincing argumentation for reincarnation. I've always thought it to be kind of a silly position. I mean, where are we getting the new souls from if everything's just kind of being recycled? It kind of doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, it's an ancient, Hindu sort of pagan view, and it ties into pantheism and these kind of, and ultimately probably animistic doctrines. So yeah, it's an interesting film. I mean, like you, I might rewatch it every 10 years or so. But I mean, I think there's some other, really fascinating films in there. What's another one you wanted to talk about?
The Prestige. That's one of my favorites.
Nolan. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this is one of my favorites right here. So I want to know what comes through with you, because there's a lot that I can pick from. You got these two obsessive competing magicians that are willing to throw it all away to destroy each other personally or whatever professionally. You got these little hits of high science. David Bowie as Nikola Tesla was perfect. Then, of course, there's all these ethical dilemmas, but it's psychological too, because everything is an illusion. They, as Hugh Jackman says in that movie as well about Borden, he lives his act. So you don't know who's getting gaslit, and you don't know what's happening there. And I'm just curious what your biggest nuggets you took away from that one is.
I did a pretty lengthy, pretty deep analysis, and it was written some years back, so I had to kind of rewrite some of it. But yeah, the first, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first 6 chapters of my book, which the chapters are kind of short, so I don't know, it's like the first 30, 40 pages of the third book, deals with Nolan films. And I think that, Nolan was really at his peak in the 2000s. I don't think that the more recent Nolan films have been very good. I'm not a huge fan of Oppenheimer, but I do think that Inception, Interstellar were good. A lot of people don't like Interstellar. Batman trilogy was good. And I think The Prestige was really good. And it's operating, I think, on multiple levels. So on one level, it's telling us the story, as you mentioned, about these magicians that are competing. And I'm sure everybody's perhaps seen it, so I'm not going to be spoiling anything if I talk about how the twist, the reveal, it says this 3-stage process to it. And the reveal is, of course, that they were twin brothers, right? So this whole time there was 2 of them. You never really knew that or realized that, but they were so devoted to their craft that they both lived their whole lives hiding the secret of their being twin brothers. And the Tesla stuff is weird, is kind of thrown in there as an odd side thing, but it's also kind of a clue because the idea in the Tesla tech stuff, played by David Bowie of all people, is that somehow there's cloning. So it's like the Tesla teleportation, electromagnetic field disturbance, free energy stuff that Tesla is doing somehow is like causing multiple people. If you try to teleport or whatever, then you get like 2, 3, 4, 20 David Bowies. So it's like, on the one hand, it's playing with the reality of technology getting us to this almost godlike status at the same time as the magicians doing this sort of stage routine that's a deception, and the real science is sort of hidden from everybody. Everybody's following and paying attention to the magicians, and you've got this almost godlike magic that's real magic from the Tesla tech in the film. So there's a lot of different weird layers and things going on as to how realistic or exactly what was going on with Tesla. A lot of that's clouded in mythology now. It's hard to determine exactly what Tesla was up to and what's authentically fully his, and whether the Navy's shut all this down. I mean, obviously we know that wireless stuff comes from Tesla, and we wouldn't have the internet without Tesla. But did he create free energy? I don't know. Maybe. Did he create cloning from multiverse entities and being? I doubt that. But my main analysis focuses on the way that humans in the audiences perceive things in the stage show and in the film, and how the state, the establishment, the corporate media does the same thing to us. We're viewing the magic show, and the script writers, like the intelligence agencies and the powers that be, the oligarchs, they're sort of writing the script and doing the 3-stage model of the film to us.
And to be honest, I think that's what a lot of people would say the purpose of staging something like a Challenger disaster would be. Because it's, all eyes are in the sky. It's emotional. It reaffirms, it makes you wonder, okay, well, are we just going to give up when we hit a bump in the road, or are we going to continue on and conquer space? It's what they would want to do, creating new heroes, all that. But it's perfectly said, because of course I think this takes place around the very last years of the 19th century. And it's obviously there's no television. We're just a couple of decades before radio started becoming a little bit more accessible to people. And it's just the night at the theater. And how are people? How's it being advertised in the papers? And it's a great thing there. Speaking of the last days of the 19th century, have you done a breakdown on the Sherlock Holmes, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies?
I did a video on that many years ago. I think the video is still on my channel. So there is a video it's about a 12 or 13 minute esoteric analysis of the first Sherlock Holmes. There's sort of a Lord Blackwood character that's based on Crowley, and he's trying to bring in this magical aeon at the end of time. He's going to be this god figure in the quasi-Masonic secret society that he works with. He's got them all duped into believing that he has these magical powers, very similar to kind of the theme of The Prestige. And of course, Sherlock undermines all that and uses science to disseminate to destroy the disinformation that Lord Blackwood is engaging in. And part 2 is also interesting because it's about the powers that be sort of causing World War I and funding both sides, with Moriarty sort of being this figure who's tied into the arms factories that are funding both sides of World War I, and the assassination of Franz Ferdinand to kick off the war. So I enjoyed both of those films. I thought they were well made, and Guy Ritchie is a good director. He makes pretty good films overall. But I do think the first one was the most sort of esoteric, and a lot of references to Crowleyan type cults going on. But I didn't include that in this book, but it is on my channel as an analysis.
Yeah, those are great. And for all those reasons, it's kind of chilling in the second one when they're all in the artillery yard or wherever the hell it was, and you start realizing that this is This is a building up toward World War One. They're just on the opposite side of 1900 or whatever the hell it is, and it's pretty crazy. Almost to the, you almost be like tipping your cap to when they brought Daniel Craig on to be 007, and when they did Casino Royale, and he's getting a little bit of a debrief with by Moneypenny, by M over there at right when they're still in the Bahamas, and she was talking about what was going on with the Airbus that was going to be blown up because Lashif had shorted all the airline stocks with the terrorist money. And she actually referenced to the shorting of stocks the night before 9/11. I said, holy shit. I mean, that's that. Even back then I said, that's pretty bold right there, because exactly. These are big rolls of the dice that we see happening throughout history that most people are just told, oh, that's nothing. It's just, it happens.
Yeah, I think the screenwriters, pretty much of most of the Bond films, are pretty aware of what's going on, because they have almost always laced the films and the narratives with real events and real things and real quote conspiracies. That's one of the many examples. I think in my first book, I did quite a bit of Bond. There's about 60, 70 pages of Bond stuff in my first Esoteric Hollywood book. And that, of course, goes back to, Ian Fleming being naval intelligence and for the British. And then British intelligence, basically putting a lot of his own personal experience into those stories, describing what he had seen, but fictionalizing it and making it somewhat propaganda as well. So I'm not saying that the Bond stories tell you everything, but you do get, like Hugo Drax and these sorts of characters that are, kind of like Bill Gates or Epstein type characters who, they want to depopulate everybody. They want to create their own new human race. They want to be the God Adam figure to a new race. If you watch Moonraker, for example, and then we see, in reality, you have people that are really like that. They really want to do that. So there's a lot of truth in those stories and in those films. But for this one, spy wise, I did include a pretty significant espionage section. And this time I went with all of the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible films. So I did an analysis of all of them. It's towards the end. It's maybe a 10, 15 page analysis of all those. I did The Saint, which I think is a 90s classic, with Val Kilmer. Of course, Val Kilmer just passed away, but Elizabeth Shue, Val Kilmer, and The Saint. I really enjoyed the 1997 version of that. And that has a lot of esoteric alchemical stuff in it. He's Simon Templar. He's named after the Gnostic, Magus in the Book of Acts. So there's a lot going on espionage wise in Esoteric Hollywood 3 as well. But
what about Total Recall? I see the 1990 Total. I never saw the remake, but Total Recall. I can just imagine where that all goes, given implanted memories, being able to go somewhere and have a memory of vacation implanted in your mind, and then to show up at the memory bank and actually have a suppressed memory come forward that you actually were on Mars. And then it goes into the deep of the deep ends after that. I love that movie.
Yeah. I did watch the new one, and I actually wrote back when it came out, the remake. Most people didn't really like it, the one with Colin Farrell. I did do a little analysis of it on my website back in the day, but no, this is an analysis actually of the original. And I get into MK Ultra stuff. I get into the idea of, Philip K. Dick was playing with Matrix type ideas before the Matrix. And if you watch Total Recall, it's interesting because in Total Recall, the red pill is a bad thing, because the red pill is going to supposedly wake him up, but it's actually not designed to do that, right? Because in the film, the Arnold Schwarzenegger character, he doesn't know whether he's still in the Matrix or whether he's out of it. So it's kind of a Matrix before the Matrix type of plot. And it's a classic, 80s, 90, I forget exactly, but it might be right on the bridge of 80s, 90, but future dystopia and a lot of Mars UFO crap that I think is just kind of propaganda. But yeah, I think the main point that PKD was after in that was the danger of a society that becomes obsessed with the synthetic and retreating into technology, and that being kind of a synthetic version of our bliss that could entrap us. And that was way before the Matrix. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think about, speaking of synthetic, and this is another rabbit hole, you ever give any thought to celebrity cloning theories? Because I always keep an open mind with this. There's always a video or a slideshow of people come. I just saw this latest video that came across my my feed on Instagram. There was a side-by-side with Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things and Elizabeth Perkins from Big. And I said, holy shit. I mean, it's nuts. And there's so many of those examples. Now, I'm open to this, and I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why, but I just want to see what you have thought about this, because whether they're being cloned or whether it's just about conditioning and handling on a psychological level, there's a lot of manipulation going on among starlets for a long time. So just wanted to see where you're at with this.
Personally, I'm a skeptic about clones. I'm not convinced that, and I'm saying in general, whether there really is cloning, because I've looked into it some, and usually when they say, oh, we've grown the ear of a human inside the back of a mouse, and then you go and read into it, and it's like they actually just stuck the cartilage of a ear underneath the back of the mouse. So it's like that's not really growing an ear. And then when you read about, like, when they say they've cloned Dolly or one of these sheeps or whatever, or this pig is 5% cloned pig or whatever. Like, when you look into it, they're actually just saying that it's like 0.02% DNA of some other thing, or you know what I mean. So it's not very convincing to me that necessarily there is cloning, but I don't know. I don't have a set opinion. I've just not seen it, so I don't know whether it's real or not. I'm just a skeptic on a lot of this stuff. I would say in terms of Hollywood people, I doubt it. There are body doubles though. So this is something that we can verify. We do know exists, like powerful figures, maybe even Hollywood people, if they're like super high level, super A-list, like probably a Tom Cruise or somebody like that. Like, I could see Tom Cruise paying somebody to be a body double. Say he's getting death threats, say he's got a stalker, so something like this, right? Maybe Tom Cruise pays somebody to, appear in an event, just smile and walk down a red carpet or something. And that's not far-fetched, because we've seen world leaders on record have body doubles. Saddam Hussein famously had multiple body doubles. And so if heads of states do it, which are in more of a dangerous position probably than an actor, I could see, that's definitely true. But I would think they have maybe a body double over cloning, but I've not seen the picture that you're talking about with the girl from Big and Millie Bobby Brown.
Well, I'll at the end when we're getting off, I'll put it up there just for shits and giggles. But the reason why I'm open to this stuff is because when you think about what has already been thrown out there, just in the name of transhumanism and genetic modification of things or people, trying to identify what could be an issue for somebody down the line and taking preventative measures to alter the body or augmentation in some way. There's a lot of these weird Frankensteinish things going on. Obviously, that's a lot different than wholesale cloning of a person or of an animal. But you and I were talking about mechanized reproduction in 2023, right as we finished Brave New World. And shortly after that, we got word of the baby lambs being sustained in artificial placentas. And I brought you back on. We talked. Now, of course, here's the whole thing. There's the stated purpose for what the hell they say that it's all about. This, of course, was that hopefully one day premature babies can have some time inside of these artificial amniotic sacs instead of being in an incubator somewhere if they're born preemie. Last month, we had MIT. This was now you can say it's probably going to be bullshit on the face of it. Will it ever happen? I don't know. But the fact that it's coming from MIT is pretty interesting. They've been talking about spare bodies that they wanted to create. They call them bodyoids. They're essentially brainless, spiritless bodies that would revolutionize the way that we harvest organs or even provide meat. It was really crazy what they put out there. It's MIT. This week, cloning experiments through the guise of de-extinction as if the world needs dire wolves. I'm sure you saw that. And again, that's one of those things where if this thing doesn't grow up to be the size of a rhinoceros, then I'm not going to believe that this was some extinct DNA of a wolf that was.
Yeah, well, I read on the wolf thing. That was another kind of a misnomer. Like they were saying it was this, but it's like, oh no, this is actually just a wolf, and supposedly it has like part of the dire. I don't know. It wasn't actually. It didn't sound like actually what they were claiming it was. The one I read into it the other day. But.
Yeah. I know. So that's what I'm saying. There is, like you said, the show, in the Prestige, and then there is what's the science that's actually being worked on behind the scene. What did they get from this little stunt? I'm sure something was gleaned from it that would be useful for some other project. While we were given the first dire wolf howl that was ever heard in 10,000 years, and everybody went goo goo gaga over it. But what was really achieved, and then. I believe on the same day as we got the headlines about the wolf, we got the headlines from the NHS in the UK about a baby, the first baby that was born by way of womb transplant. And I mean, I'm telling you, man, as far as mechanized reproduction, Brave New World stuff goes, it seems like all the pieces are lining up.
Yeah, I mean, that seems more likely than that there are all these clone people walking around. I mean, but again, maybe I just don't know enough about it. I don't even know how, given that there's so much bull crap out there, like I don't even know how would I as an observer even go about verifying, whether any of this is real? Because I don't trust claims of MIT. I mean, they put out bogus science bull crap all the time in MIT. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I would say that probably does exist. Synthetic womb. I could see that being real.
But you know where this is all that's heading right there.
Brave New World.
Yeah, that's not. This is not going to be nearly about giving women a. This is going to be for whoever wants a womb is going to be able to get a womb one day. You're going to put it in there.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, that's what I'm just saying. It's nutty, and it all goes along with messaging and what is being massaged into the psyche of the public, and of course, not only is the news a big part of that, but the movies as well. Do you see anything breaking on that? Because you're big into. I mean, you do a lot of comedy writing. You help produce other shows, not only yours. I know you work with Sam Hyde, and we also have a lot of mutual friends that are into filmmaking. And a lot has changed in the last few years, aside from just new media and how people are getting information and intellectual debate and all that stuff. As someone who covers Esoteric Hollywood so much, where do you see movie making as far as balance of power shifting in the next 10 years? Is it possible to shift the balance of power against that kind of moneyed interest?
Maybe not without a transfer of wealth. So, I mean, maybe if people get into Bitcoin and we have this massive wealth transfer, which I think Bitcoin is the money of the future. I mean, 10 years from now, I would expect one Bitcoin to be $10 million, perhaps, or more per coin. So maybe when we've got the money, we can start funding more wholesome artworks. But for the meantime, I think the old studio system of Hollywood is pretty much done for. A lot of the Hollywood people are kind of admitting that. And now it's just turning into video games and, the big tech companies having their own studios. So Amazon Studios, Apple Studios, Netflix, you know what I mean? It's basically tech streaming companies that are the new studio system. But, amongst the Gen Z, it's weird. They don't really like movies, which is a new bizarre thing because mostly their attention spans have been destroyed from TikTok and scrolling. So they don't have the ability to sit through a movie. So that's going to be a weird phenomena to go through 10, 20 years from now when the Gen Z are the, culture bearers. Will they even be making movies, or will we just have like 30-minute movies that from TikTok? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I see it in the demographic. I don't know how much you. I have to assume you do study the metrics on all of your YouTube and everything else there too. I think that the generational splits in media consumption just based on what I'm able to collect on my YouTube, because Google provides the best metrics out of all of the streaming platforms out there, hands down. It is night and day as far as who's when. I understand that also big tech companies and Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they are prioritizing short, punchy, 2 minutes and less content, because people want to be able to digest this in a doom scroll reel to reel kind of a thing there.
Right.
So the culture right now, by way of algorithm and dopamine and how the brain works, the culture right now is going to short attention span. That is what we are primed for. And you can see it, especially in my metrics there too. There's whoever is watching my show between the ages of 18 and 25, they're mostly watching my highlights, the shorts, and all that stuff. They are most of that. It almost is like switching on a light switch in a room from on to off when it goes to the long form content. And that is just immediately people about 30 to 65 at that point who are watching long form conversation. And it has to be tied into a lot of that stuff, because I know it's generational at this point. Maybe one day it lengthens, but are you seeing that on your end?
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned with. I mean, I see the metrics, the analytics, like you're saying, and I don't think. I mean, I do almost all long form content. On my channel, I do have some, short stuff, but I'm just looking at the metrics right now. It's like almost all of it is, like hardly anyone lasts more than 16 to 25 minutes. So my audience is made up of almost all age 20 to 40. That's almost all my audience. And anyone underneath that is very small. Anyone above that is very small, but they don't watch more than 15 to 20 minutes. Now, granted, maybe the information is just not that interesting that people want to watch it more than 15, 20 minutes or whatever. But that's weird, because like that means that the younger you go, the less attention span there is, and the less that people are watching anything long form. And they're calling that would mean that something over 25 minutes is long form content. I mean, I do like 3, 4, 5 hour debate streams. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like I said, things change all the time, and we were young as well, and I had ants in my pants at that time too, and maybe I didn't want to sit down and watch anything. But so maybe things change, but you can
get your attention span back. You can be fixed. You can heal yourself from that. That's true.
It's good. It could, and I think just sometimes growing and needing more than just those quick hits of brain rot is. Right. Is going to be something there too, but hey
Frank, I apologize. My wife has to do something in here. She got a podcast too, so I'm gonna have to head out here in about a couple minutes.
Oh, no problem. I was just gonna let you plug your stuff anyway. Just in wrapping up that thought, I was just saying that it's one of those things that we all evolve along the way, and hopefully that takes hold. But on the corporate side, you can see that it's actually set up to feed into this trend, and hopefully people are able to break out of it. But
right.
In moving forward, what do you got coming up? Obviously, you're always live, you're always active, and you have things that are going to be published over the next couple of months. And what do you have next for Jay Dyer?
Yeah, I mean, look for the Esoteric Hollywood 3. On my website, I'll have all that information up, and I'll talk about it on social media everywhere. Again, don't know the exact date yet, but probably 1 to 2 months from now it'll be out. And you get signed copies at the website, as well as signed copies of part 1 and 2 and all the other stuff there. Continuing to, I'll be writing for Sam, Alex Jones. We're not exactly sure what's going on with, the battle over InfoWars. So that's all kind of up in the air. Don't know if I'll be doing that for forever, but as far as I'm aware, I will be doing it as long as it's available. And it exists. So, I mean, Alex will always exist, but InfoWars itself may not. So, I will probably be doing some pretty big debates and appearances on whatever podcast a couple other big podcasts out in California, San Diego, Vegas podcasts. So that'll be coming up in the next month. So you can look for that stuff.
Well, safe travels, my friend, and keep kicking ass. And I'm sure we'll talk soon. All the best to you and Jamie. And yeah, have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
All right. There you go. Jay Dyer, jaysanalysis.com. Well, you know what? We lost about 20 minutes there, but I got most of everything in. And it's all right. It's 8:20. I'm going to take a really, really quick break. When we come back, we're taking your calls. And I'm looking forward to that. 914-200-0269. You could also jump into the Discord, and I can pull you in that way. Be right back. Well,
the Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Quite frankly, he's amazing.
All right, let's take a call, shall we? Hey, 614, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Frank, this is Tim. I actually sent you the PSAs earlier.
Yeah, okay, Tim, let me ask you, because I don't remember the methamphetamine one. Is that real, or did somebody just make that and make it look like an authentic 1990s PSA?
No, that was a real PSA in the 1990s. I remember that as a kid, and probably the last one I sent you as well, and with the dog. Both of those I remember so vividly as a kid, because instead of not wanting to do drugs, I was like, you know what? Meth sounds like a good thing if I really want to get my house clean.
I know. It's not good at the end that she's covered in lesions. But other than that, I mean, like, the house looked fantastic.
Oh, yes. Most productive woman on her entire block.
well, listen, Tim.
And the last one I sent you was the dog. I was like, if my dog could talk to me, I'm doing whatever they're giving me.
Okay, let me see here. The last one with the dog. You know, no matter what it is, I'm going to save it for tomorrow, because I think Mike Baldwin's going to get a kick out of it, and maybe I'll look for some more PSAs. I know that the cannabis ones with the Ninja Turtles, I remember that one. I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey. You remember that one?
Yes. Oh, I most definitely do. And by the way, I want to apologize to Jay Dyer. When I seen your post, I seen Jay, and I was speed reading, so I immediately thought of Jameson Gulanello.
Oh, okay.
So I was thinking health, and I'm like, oh, let me throw out. And so, but it was Jay Dyer, also awesome guest on the show tonight. Great show, Frank.
Well, thank you, Tim. And to be honest, I never even thought two ways about. I thought you meant Jay Dyer, because there's something to be said about the anti-drug PSA messages of the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, it was part of the culture back then. It's of course, it's messaging from a central authority, and it's worthy of some analysis.
It really is. And saying that, I am a gate kid, by the way.
Oh, you really? Gate?
Yes.
Okay, so was your experiences in the GATE program just kind of mundane, like many people have told me, or do you have some very strange things that you remember, like sleepaway camp stories?
Not sleepaway camp stories. I do remember, like, trying to guess the next card. I remember them teaching me chess in second grade, and I think like second grade kids were actually just learning like Puff the Magic Dragon, but they were teaching us chess. But I've had multiple instances throughout my life after that that's kind of been very strange.
Okay, so let me try to think of some of the things there too. There was a list that we were working off of that a lot of people in GATE and TAG or any of the iterations over the years have had in common. Do you have that? You have that clef?
I have drowned. I have not had an Israeli girlfriend.
Okay. No, not just Israeli girlfriend, Israeli art student girlfriend.
Art student girlfriend. No to that, but I have drowned. I have been in, between middle school and high school, I was invited to Washington, D.C. Summer camp, like Youth for Leadership or something, but we didn't have like the money to send me. And it was some weird program. It was also through GATE.
What about the back? What about the back of your head? I believe it was almost like a cliff. I don't know. It's the formation of your skull. Does it come into like a point in the back of your head?
No, the back of my head is completely flat, and the joke has always been it's because my parents didn't love me enough and left me lying in the crib.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh no, it's fine.
It's fine. All right,
it's fine.
Okay, so last question before I let you go. A couple of people said that they felt that ever since they were in the program, they have had some very unusual help from the law. Like they've gotten out of some sticky legal situations way too easily. They didn't know why. They always thought like somebody was looking out for them.
Absolutely.
Really? Do you have any examples?
I was in the I went to the military. There was multiple times drinking and driving in the middle. I was pissed out. Well, we were supposed to have somebody that was a designated driver. He ended up getting drunk, of course. So we had to figure out who's the least drunk to drive back from Mexico to base. So I'm the least drunk. So I'm driving. I get pulled over. I'm swerving all over the road. Cop comes up to me. I pull out my license. He looks at it. He goes back to his car, runs me, comes back to the car and says, "Hey, you guys need to follow me back to the police station and sleep it off in the parking lot."
That's strange.
And we had drove straight to the police station. And of course he pulls out to go catch other people. So we ended up pulling back out. I've had many run-ins with the law where I probably should have gotten something done, tickets, and they just go ahead and let me pass.
Wow. Unless you had a really, really cool cop, because otherwise that would be a knock on the door for all of your parents or whoever the hell's looking after you at school or the authorities, whatever the hell. I forget if you said that was when you were already in the military or before then, but that must have been a really cool cop or somebody. There's some sort of a note attached to your file. Who knows?
Who knows?
Well,
Who knows?
Thanks for the call, Tim.
I believe there is some kind of note, but I'm not going to push my luck.
No, don't. You're already ahead of the game. You're playing with house money. Do me a favor. If you find any more fun PSAs, just keep tweeting them at me in that same thread, and I'll collect them for tomorrow. And I just want to get, I think that it would be fun to get some reaction from Mike Baldwin when he's on with me.
Awesome. Good to talk to you, Frank.
All right. Have a good one. Take care. There goes Tim, everybody.
Bye.
Call on in, 914-200-0269. It is 8:29, and we got a half hour left, so we're just going to be taking your calls. Let me see. We have a Rumble rant on the Quite Frankly Rumble. Then we're going to go check out what's going on with Badlands, all of our friends that are joining us over there, too. Jay Semo says, I've been catching up with the live shows all week. Last night was intense. Keep it up, Frank. Thank you. I have something on last night as well. It just came in before the show started. It was pretty intense. The second half of the show was great. I love talking about the tariff stuff. I think it's exciting what's happening on that end. But it was the two times that Brandon Joe Williams was on, it has been intense only because of the volume of stuff and also the implication. Of course, we're talking about declaring sovereignty from the tax matrix and how you stand as far as legal definition in opposition to the United States of America, and whether or not you pay your income taxes, how you exist in that world without doing all that stuff. But and that is all well and good until we got to the very end about the endorsement notes, writing an endorsement note to just drive away with new cars without any intention of actually exchanging currency or barter or putting up any kind of collateral to attain it. So we'll talk about that in a second because I got an email before we went live. All right, 646. We got a local yokel over here. What's going on, New York?
Hey, it's Larry in Brooklyn.
Larry, how are you? Go ahead.
It's been a while. Dude, I love when you talk this stuff, man. This is my wheelhouse.
Good.
Yeah, Jay Dyer. He was right. He was right on it. I gotta call him out a little bit because I've recognized his language over a lot of years. I know that he's close. He's not going to talk about FE, but he's really close. He's a skeptic of NASA. He's a skeptic of space. And you guys covered the gamut tonight. I love the talking about the movies and the predictive programming and how it's subtly laced over the course of generations to get you to believe in a certain thing. And I mean, really, like, this is how we understand propaganda these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a little bit. Here's the table of contents. He sent me over. So Total Recall. I think that I can't wait to take a look at that. But Mary Poppins. I should have asked him about Mary Poppins. And now I want to
check this out.
Yeah,
Mary Poppins.
Yeah,
All
go ahead.
Listen to listen to what she says throughout the picture. She goes, "Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down." This is pre-prediction for all medicine is good. Just take some sugar with it. All medicine is good. We're finding out these days that perhaps it isn't.
Well,
that's early predictive programming.
Listen, I don't necessarily. Hey, I'm as skeptical as you on all that stuff at this point there too. But I wouldn't necessarily say this is about all medicine is good. It's just that if you ever tasted Robitussin, if you ever had any of that rank ass shit in your mouth, you would love a spoonful of sugar at that point to help it go down. But I just know I don't know. I maybe I'm just looking at that. I got to go and watch.
Did you ever RoboFlip?
Oh no, but you know what? I was working at CVS at that. It was one of my first jobs on the books. And I was working at CVS and I was about 15 years old. And this is when I was told, okay, listen, Frank, you got to look out for the Robitussin, and especially when certain people walked in. There was this one, strung out girl that kept coming in. It's real sad. I remember it to this day. And this was the first time I ever saw a product put behind some kind of plastic. And this was back in, just around 2000 or so, 1999. Everything's behind sheet glass now and locked up for one reason or another. But when I heard about robo-tripping back then, I mean, the people who were coming in looking for that Robitussin, they were fucked up. And the other thing that we were told to look out for was the people stealing baby powder, the talcum powder, because that's what a lot of dealers were cutting their cocaine with. And then you see all of the damn cancer cluster, all the cancer cluster lawsuits that have popped up because of certain talcum powders and shit. And I was like, I wonder how many people were sniffing it. They didn't even know it. So yeah, I learned a lot at 15.
I didn't mean to take it all the way off into that, but you had more of the movies. What were the other movies that were on the table of contents?
Mary Poppins, Disney's Cruella. I never watched it. But I understood what the hell was going to go on there. There is this trend with Disney and other movie houses that bring back and want to reimagine certain types of characters, especially villains, and sympathize with them. So I knew, right off the bat, I said, "Oh, okay. So this is an apologetic for Cruella de Vil instead of just painting her as the crazed witch that is trying to kill puppies to turn them into quotes." Let's see here: Wonder Woman, GMO, Invitation to Hell, Society, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I know that one. Right. You want to talk about mass psychosis? That's a good one. I mean, I often think of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I thought about it a lot during 2020.
I mean, talk about what about They Live? I mean, that's the ultimate truth in plain sight. Conspiratorial, reptilians among us movie that was sort of kind of frowned upon by the mainstream, but it's kind of applicable today.
Absolutely. I got to imagine. I have Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2. I have to imagine that They Live is in one of those, because that's, like you said, that is almost like a 101 level class at this point. If you're going to talk about movies with a message, that has to be like the top 5 you start with these days. But a lot of this stuff with Christopher Nolan was great. The Prestige, Interstellar, Inception. I like that. I liked all the Batman trilogy was a lot of fun. But Watchmen is in here. So
Watchmen's got a lot of stuff. It's occulted a lot, and there's a lot of stuff to decode out of that one. And hey, what's the one, Nicole, about what's the cartoon one that talks about adrenochrome a lot in it? There's the Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. You want to see some some seriously creepy shit. Watch that one.
Wait a second. There's adrenochrome in Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. is laced with adrenochrome, like all over the place. It's in the background. It's everything. And it's actually about the process. Sorry, I don't want to take your podcast way off, but this, like, those of us that know about that stuff, watch that one. And
all right, I'm gonna have to go
look into that rabbit hole. I'll just stay there. But I'm gonna get off here. But I just wanted to say hello. I haven't said hi in a while, and I'll be catching up. I love these topics. I always like to talk about them. And I hope you're well, brother.
Oh, well, I hope you're well too, Lawrence. Have a good one. Be well. There you go. Larry from Brooklyn. It's good to have him on. Planet of the Apes and the reboots. There's a lot to say there. There's a lot to say with Total Recall. We already did a little bit of that. But Black Mirror. I gotta say, Black Mirror is one of those series that I want to watch more, but it's just so exhausting. It's so exhausting because you could just read the news. Just read the news. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frankie, what's up?
Hello there, 8845. How you been?
I'm doing great. Great to see Jay Dyer on. He's fucking phenomenal, and it's awesome that you have him. What I wanted to bring up is when things become mundane, like if you're like really in, like, I'm not going to say like I'm in on this. I'm not, but I've had my experiences when this mysterious stuff becomes really mundane, and we're going to get to that inflection point, I feel. And you're working through it, but when it goes from questioning to we all fully get it. So one quick one, the Challenger thing.
Uh-huh.
I can remember being in grade school in New York City and getting called into the auditorium and having this big moment, this massive moment, where they had a fucking screen set up for us to watch it, and we all were supposed to feel something from it. Flash forward 2001.
Wait. Did they bring this? They made you watch the rerun, knowing how it's going to end, or you got together and watched the live feed?
I was in a first grade through sixth grade public school. All of the grades were brought down, all of them.
To watch it live?
What?
To watch it live or after the fact?
No, after the fact.
Well,
wait, shit, Frank. After the fact.
Damn, they chose to sit you all down to watch these people die?
Yeah, and to have like this moment where we all could sort of grieve together. So I mean, this is a fake NASA program, and I emailed you about the fake fucking porpoises dancing around the SpaceX fucking capsule, which is so incredibly fucking ridiculously fake, with the woman with her hair in the air and then coming out of this tube. And it's like, why are they still doing it? You can't figure it out because the kids aren't paying attention. But back to what I was talking about, I was probably fourth grade. All the grades were brought down into our communal lunchroom where we always ate lunch together. And we were shown, if I remember correctly, the video of the thing happening, and then told about it, and we were meant to grieve together over this national tragedy.
Well, I mean, it could have just been the way that your school administrators thought would be best to. They probably all thought. I don't think that they were given instructions from the government to go do that. It's probably just what they thought was appropriate back then. I don't know. It could have just been.
That's an excellent and it's an excellent point. And I wasn't saying it was the government that was doing it. But it's like everything is fucking subtle. Like you don't need to like tell somebody to do something if you've already set this thing in motion and it's just going to play itself out. Like they said, TV was going to rot your brain, and we're a generation of TV watchers. We talk about the kids watching TikTok and their attention span and not watching movies, but when the extraordinary becomes the mundane, and there really is, when you like, this is not or nothing, like their big trick is to make everything look organic. But it's not. It's actually really fucking simple.
Okay.
It's just media, and it's like,
all right.
Yeah. No,
All right.
that's what I got. That's what I got for you, Frankie. God love you, brother.
Well, thank you. Well, hey, listen, I can working back from television, whether it be baby boomers going into even Gen X, and TV had been around for a couple of generations before we started getting handheld, before we started getting more mobile. And first, it was already that way when I was growing up. TV will rot your brain. Everybody had, get away from that television. Then all of a sudden, the gaming consoles started to really evolve quick. And it was still easy to manage our time when the gaming consoles were not connected to the internet. It became a lot more addictive once you're playing on networks against people and all that other shit. And then there's less and less reason to leave the house altogether. And then, of course, you're carrying it in your back pocket. So the evolution of the technology, to say that television wasn't rotting people's brains is probably was. It's just, it was just a little bit more of a primitive version of what we have going on right now. And everybody is having all of their small, peaceful moments sucked away to the badges and the ringtones and everything else that's calling you back to the portal in your palm. So it's probably where things all started, and it was a lot easier to manage, no doubt about it. But yeah, I can see that. And then there's the other thing there too. Like we look at CNN's Gulf War coverage. We look at CNN's Gulf War coverage and laugh at it now and say, how the hell did anybody think that this was real? How the hell did anybody think that CGI in this movie looked good? Why the hell weren't we all laughing our asses off when Mortal Kombat 2 came out and we didn't realize how bad, really, I mean, I think some of us thought it was, actually, that's really pretty fucking bad. And then just a couple of years later, it just aged so poorly. I mean, so the real thing there is that, these productions, hindsight is 2020. You look back, you say, wow, they're really screwing with us. But at the time, it was politically expedient, and you had everybody watching one source of it. So there's still a lot of trust left over from past generations. There's a lot of trust there. It was trust alone is what got people to the most people, for a critical mass of people in the United States, to accept that Oswald killed JFK. It was just trust. I listen to a lot of Coast to Coast classics now with Art Bell. I have since about 2021. And, whenever it's late at night and I want something to listen to, like there's so many places out there that host old episodes, and I don't care what the hell the topic is. I just want to listen to some kind of conversation, a guy taking calls from people in 1996, in 1997, just to listen to how people were thinking about things. I was listening to an episode that was just an open lines kind of a night in 1996, just last night. And Art refused to believe that the government had anything to do with and were willingly suppressing what happened with TWA 800. Refused to believe, and he couldn't take himself there. He also never, there's just so, you want to talk about trust and what the authorities are saying. It's like a time capsule there. And that's all the Kennedy Those are people who were alive and very much conscious when Kennedy was shot. And Dan Rather calmed them all down. Walter Cronkite calmed them all down, gave them the 411, and it was all bullshit. It's all bullshit. But we only had one channel, a couple of channels to tune into, and one device. You walk away from that device, suddenly you're in real life again. You can't walk away from them so easily anymore. And that's not to say that everything that was on the television was bullshit. There's just, I love watching old TV shows, and we often do that on Sunday nights when Aurora is still awake. Ed Sullivan reruns are on constantly. I love stuff like that, man. I really do. All right, real quick, we got to take one last break. When we come back, some more of your calls. We'll take it right to the top. 13 minutes left, but don't go anywhere.
Quite frankly, contributed to the death of 7 million people because of the funding of gain-of-function experiments in the Wuhan lab.
What's the matter?
There's no olives.
What?
There's no olives near me.
There are no olives here. There are no olives here. Bring out the olives. Sally! Sally, I don't have anything! Sally, I don't have anything!
You've probably seen the new collab between Rise and Badlands Media, but I'll tell you what you haven't seen yet. The end of Clown World as we know it. But have no fear. Introducing the latest addition to the Badlands INTL lineup. The sequel to the best-selling Psy War series. We've been conditioned by these clowns to accept their circus. But it's time to unwind that and strike them out the history books. The future belongs to the real, and we've got it in droves. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/rise for the full line of premium and direct-to-garment streetwear. Made to order right here in the good old US of A, the heart of the resistance. The fall of Clown World is upon us, patriots. Let's make it official.
Scientists were able to mimic Nessie Amun's voice by recreating his mouth and vocal cords with a 3D printer. It allowed them to produce a single sound.
Here, hold on one second, and welcome to the show, Jeremy Reese. I wonder what triggered you to call in tonight. Is it the media centralization of all messages that, of course, led to JFK talk and everything else?
Yeah. I mean, I saw that you guys were live. I kind of just tuned in, so I haven't. What have you guys covered so far? Top 10 CIA ops?
Oh yeah, we did top 10 CIA ops. Jay Dyer brought that to the table. We did a little bit out of that, and then we blended that into esoteric and messaging, cultural messaging that is delivered through Hollywood, because he's just completed writing his Esoteric Hollywood Part 3, a series, now a trilogy of books on that. So we kind of just brought intelligence into culture and how all that influence meshed together. And of course, with 10 minutes left, here you are. So I'd love to give you a few of them.
Yeah. I'm here.
Oh, well, welcome aboard. What would you say? Is there any movies out there? I guess we'll just stick to the topic at hand. Are there any movies out there that you could really point to that, especially from a high technology or even a UFO alien standpoint, that you always talk about that serves one purpose or another, that is a complete op from a movie standpoint? Is there any of them?
I mean, a lot of the ones that have been released in the last few years. I mean, a lot of the small documentaries out there. I mean, the Hollywood movies. Let me see. I don't know, but I added on the Let me get back to that. I just want to throw in something about the JFK assassination.
Yes.
That one of the women that befriended Marina Oswald, Lee's wife, there was a woman named Priscilla McMillan, and she helped translate and write her autobiography, supposedly. And then it turns out that she was the CIA consenting operative, like she was like a knowledgeable like operative for the CIA, and there's documentation that she was paid for like almost all her work, and that came out in the files. So this is the ways that they've infiltrated all kinds of media and culture, so that when people go to the literature and they say, oh, well, this is what, that this is the profile that they have of Lee, and this is what we were told who Lee Harvey Oswald was, and so they've really, they've hid the files on Lee Harvey Oswald until 2039 is when they originally wanted to keep them all classified till. And, now that it's a lot of this is coming out, there's a lot of that. But I remember a lot of films that were pro conspiracy, like throwing this stuff in growing up. I don't know if you remember The Rock, where the Sean Connery, where
yep.
he's, in the end, I think Kevin Costner's character is like looking through the stuff that he gets from the spy guy. And it's
Nicolas Cage.
Like, you want to know who? Huh?
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, it was Nicolas Cage. Yeah, he's like, you want to know who killed Kennedy? Yeah, it was Nicolas Cage.
There's negatives of like 8mm film that was hidden inside of a pew at a random church somewhere in the country.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that. Right at the end.
Clever dead drop, but yeah, it would be something like that where there's a dead drop location that there's something in. But a lot of the key films from Dealey Plaza were like destroyed or just confiscated and never surfaced. Like I think Beverly Oliver was recording, and also Gordon Arnold said like a guy identifying themselves as Secret Service took their film and they never saw it again. Never heard of it again.
I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Probably about 3 weeks ago, whenever the hell it was after the first full week of those JFK files came out. We were talking about that at the end, toward the end of the week. My buddy Jay was in here, and he brought up Beverly Oliver, and he brought up the confiscated, how this is something that he would really love to see, is a release of all the confiscated film. That was obviously there's no trace. There's no mention of it. So that all went into an incinerator somewhere, because
they had the clearest photography of the Knoll and the assassination from the perspective of the Knoll at that close of an angle. So there was, of course, that they went and rounded up that evidence right away and had it destroyed. But what's crazy is that Beverly Oliver's shoes. Have you ever heard of her shoes? She was standing right on the curb, and if you look in the Zapruder film, where you can see her standing, she's like closest to the curb on the other side of the assassination, like closest to the president when the headshot actually takes place. So she would have got all that on film, and her shoes have this yellow paint on the bottom of them. You can notice that the curb is just that curb is painted yellow. And then you go through, like, it's very hard to find like color photographs of that angle of the assassination and Dealey Plaza, but somebody came the night before and painted 3 of the curbs, just 3 of the curb markers, yellow with yellow marker paint. It was fresh. So, and those were coordinated with where the shots, happened. So it's like a timing mechanism. So they didn't have to announce the timing over a shooting. It's like, announce it over a radio or anything. So it's just right there in the plaza, which has always been strange to me. If it was an assassination by a lone nut and Oswald was in that window, he would have shot the president when they were coming right down Houston Street. That's the shot. I mean, he's coming straight towards you. There's no escape. But to wait until he takes the turn onto Elm Street and gets into that ambush zone, which is just a clear sniper shot from the grassy knoll behind that white picket fence. That's clearly where they took him out from. And then they had a sea of cars. They could have had a compartment in any one of those vehicles just to stash a rifle real quick and then just identify themselves as Secret Service agents, and nothing happened in this area. And it would have been a cinch to just have a second gunman, or at least even a third gunman there on the knoll. And I don't know about all the other gunmen in the assassination. The other people say there might have been one in the other corner of the of the Texas
Well, yeah.
School Book Depository building. But again, the mechanics don't matter. What matters is that the CIA has the power in the media and Hollywood and everything else to be able to cover this up for decades and decades and decades. It just goes to show you that. Again,
though, Jeremy, what I was saying before you came on is that I think it really goes to show that what you needed back then more than anything was trust. And there's a lot of trust that the public had in the media still at that time. And of course, like you said, and who was running the media and who was running this operation. It's good. It's a really good analysis there. I have to get off right now though, because I'm up against the clock. I'd love to, we got to get you on again just to do, I love your random stop-ins. They're always illuminating, but we got to do something official.
Only after the show. I'm going to text you and let's link up. We'll do a show soon, man. Thank you. Awesome. I'm going to go back and listen to this Jay Dyer guy.
You got it.
Totally.
I think you'll like him a lot. We'll talk soon.
All right.
There you go.
All right, man. Peace.
That's the alien scientist, Jeremy Reese. So that'll be fun. We'd love to get Jeremy back on sometime soon. Well, listen, it's 8:57. I really appreciate you guys. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. I got this email about last night. I'm not going to be able to do right now because we only got 2 minutes left, but I'll save it for tomorrow. And it'll be good because in the first half, we'll have comedian Mike Baldwin on to do some weird news. And eventually, I want to take your calls, and we'll have some other fun there, too. Paul on QuiteFranklySuperChat.com says, hey, Frank, do you remember the old story about the Raelian cult and the first clone human? I remember talking about the Raelians. I will check that out. You know what, Paul? Do me a favor. Email me that link so I don't lose it. Email me that link, frank@quitefrankly.tv. There's a couple more super chats here real quick. Hey, would you blow me? He says, I hate that I love you. No Cuomo. Cuomo get no pussy. Spud Hill says, cheers, appreciate you, brother. Well, I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you so much. And we've got a wonderful group of people hanging out with us over there on Badlands as well. Mima Hunter says, Frank, love seeing you expanding onto Badlands. I love being here. Well, got a lot of great friends here. There's a really wonderful, robust schedule of people, and I'm happy to have Thursday syndicated by them. Kid Billy 70 says, glad to see you here on Badlands. That's how I found your podcast, and I'm so happy that you joined, John and crew. Keep on keeping on. I can't wait to have John on the show. He's been really wonderful to us. Cam Cooksey says, I feel like the interview was an op that Trump used to his advantage in the first term. The interview you're talking about, wait a second. The movie The Interview? Is that the North Korean one? Was that really it? Hold on. You email the show and jog my memory on that, Cam Cooksey, so I can have that I can add that into my notes for the next time. All right, real quick over on quitefrankly.tv. Let me just make sure I see everybody there, and we are outie. Because I think what's coming up next on Badlands, Sit Rep, and then there's a lot of great stuff going on QuiteFrankly.tv as well. Thank you, Robert Sarnes, C. Blanche, Doug Simmy, Neo. What's up there, girlfriend? And on, sir, says, great show, Frank. Thank you. Doug Simmy, throwing the shades down there. Coffee Talk with Sandra says, happy Thursday. Same to you, Sandra. Good girl out there, Sandra. 123 SKG says The Wizard of Oz, which was scary to me. Oh, The Witch was scary to you. Yeah. Who's that, Margaret Hamilton? She's actually one of the nicest women on the face of the planet. If you read into her, she's one of the kindest people ever that ever lived. But I'm sure she scared a lot of kids when they were little. And Sean Joe, thank you so much. Well, that's it for me. It's 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock tomorrow, and that is the end of the official work week. Then, of course, the unofficial work week continues on Saturday night, as we're going to be doing a Rumble-only call-in show starting around 9 p.m. We are going to be doing it's pretty much just going to be a night that we're opening up the Crazy Story hotline. If you got a crazy story to tell, think about it from now, write it down, you call in on Saturday night. I don't know, we might only be live for an hour. It's just a test. See how things go. And yes, thank you for everything, my friends. Thank you, Jay Dyer. Thank you to all the callers, and I will talk to you soon. All right, good night.
Catch you on the flip side.